So turning to Apprise Audit. Apprise Audit is a solution developed by the Mekong Club and United Nations University Institute in Macau. Apprise was actually developed long before the COVID-19 pandemic, and was developed in collaboration with a number of Mekong Club member companies to overcome some key challenges within your regular social audit worker interviews. So we identified that in your typical social audit, workers may be engaged, they may be interviewed, but oftentimes they would be interviewed in groups. So there was often a lack of privacy. Workers weren't necessarily able to speak freely, which was something that posed a real challenge, especially considering the very sensitive nature of human rights and modern slavery issues. We also found that often the social auditor involved or the interviewer would not be fluent in every single language of the workforce. So this meant that certain migrant worker populations would be completely ignored from the process. They wouldn't be given a voice, they wouldn't be able to give feedback, or maybe they would, but they wouldn't really necessarily be completely understood by the auditor. And we also found that there was a lack of consistency in data collection. So companies love data, they love to be able to compare, they love to be able to understand where there might be trends in their supply chain, where there might be particular risks cropping up, especially these organizations that have very, very extensive supply chains. They like to collect good data and have a consistent stream of data that they can make comparisons within. Now, many social audits, the interviewer will be asking different questions of different workers, different questions being asked on different days, and maybe even not fully covering all of those possible indicators of forced labor that may be present in any given factory. So maybe only asking questions about overtime and not asking questions about recruitment fees, for example. So this lack of consistency in data was another challenge that was presented to us. So we developed the Apprise Audit platform. This was a smartphone application that would be installed onto the device of the social auditor. So the auditor would have this app downloaded onto their phone when they go in to do the audit. And when they wish to interview a worker, they could present the device to the worker. The worker could then open the device, select the language that they speak, put on a headset, and they're played a short video explaining what Apprise Audit is and how to answer the question set ahead of them. They're then presented with a series of questions related to their working conditions. And these questions are delivered in the worker's own language. They are each mapped to an ILO indicator of forced labor, and they are simple yes, no, don't know answers with the option to also skip if a worker does not wish to answer a particular question. Once the interview is complete, the worker can hand the device back to the social auditor, and the auditor is presented with a snapshot view of the particular risk indicators that were present during that particular interview or during that wider social audit. This data then feeds into a larger back-end dashboard that is visible by the companies involved who wish to make comparisons, say, between countries or between suppliers or even between audits. So when COVID-19 hit, we were faced with some challenges when it came to implementing Apprise. Apprise Audit was designed to be incorporated into your regular social audit processes, which were in person. However, suddenly we were faced by the very same challenges. We were unable to travel. We were unable to physically reach workers. Social auditors and companies alike were coming to us to say, we really want to be speaking to workers more than ever before. Is there any way that we can adapt this technology that we already have in our pocket to make that happen? So we adapted Apprise Audit to allow for the option for the very same interview. So the very same process of picking the language and picking the question sets, etc., and aggregating the data. But instead of being physically presented to the worker on the auditor's smartphone, this could be delivered via a QR code, which could be sent to the factory to be displayed in the canteen, in the toilets, or to be given out to the workers directly to fill in or to complete the interview in their own time. This data fed into the very same back-end data that the in-person app used as well. So we had a number of companies that were using Apprise Audit already, pivoting their approach and incorporating this worker interview technology into their remote audits, as well as into their in-person audits where they were able to continue those. Apprise Audit has since interviewed over 20,000 workers. Approximately a third of those interviews flag at least one ILO indicator of forced labour, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail on this later. We have around 19 languages available and have implemented in over 12 countries. We uncovered a number of case studies whereby Apprise Audit actually uncovered risks that had never been uncovered before in certain facilities. So in one, workers reported that there was no drinking water available to them while they were working. This was uncovered through an Apprise Audit interview, and the factory management was able to take action to repair the water pipe, and workers were then able to access clean drinking water. In another case, we found that workers actually didn't have official labour contracts, so they were not getting access to their legally mandated benefits. So we were able to work with the supplier to put those contracts in place and pay the workers properly. In another case, Apprise Audit uncovered the fact that female workers have been forced to do pregnancy testing as part of the recruitment process and to keep their job. We were able to identify this issue through Apprise Audit by asking questions that had never been asked of these particular workers before, and work together with the brand and the supplier to fix that issue. We've had excellent feedback from the brands and organizations using Apprise Audit actively in their supply chains through COVID-19. We have had evidence to state that Apprise Audit has given companies the ability to reach workers who have never, ever been interviewed about their working conditions. And after COVID-19 hit, the remote features have allowed companies to continue to collect valuable worker voice information and help those most in need.
This video was made possible through support provided by US Agency for International Development and produced by the Mekong Club and Windrock International. The opinions expressed herein are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the US Agency for International Development.